What up, Crypto Warriors, it's Ultra Crypto back at it again. Today is May 5th, Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. Happy Cinco de Mayo. The United States can pay any debt it has because we can always print money to do that. So there is zero probability of default. This is coming from Alan Greenspan, and he is so confident that the U.S. government could pay any debt because we could print an unlimited amount of money. And yeah, let's just have a quick look at what he's talking about. A quick look right here. The U.S. debt, $24.9 trillion. I don't know how we're going to print our way out of this one, but according to Alan Greenspan, who is the former chairman of the Fed, he's saying that it's possible. So it's possible. And you're probably saying, yeah, you got to take a look down here at the total national assets, at the amount of assets we have, and it's 144 trillion. So yes, we can pay it off. If we just sold $25 trillion worth and just pay it off, then we'll have a zero balance. However, if you take a quick look over here to the right, U.S. unfunded liabilities, $147 trillion. 147. So we are already $3 trillion in the hole before we have to pay this one right here. So there you have it. We are actually $28 trillion in debt. And yeah. But with that being said, with all these big numbers being thrown around, the hundreds of billions, the trillions, and all that, right? People are desensitized to what it actually means to have $1 trillion and especially in debt, and how long it would actually take to pay off and I'm putting up one finger here, $1 trillion in debt. It will take over 31,000 years. And here it is. Quick Google search. How long is 1 trillion seconds? 1 trillion seconds is 31,546 years. 1 trillion seconds. So that means to pay off $1 trillion, it'll take the U.S. government spending $1 per second for 31,546 years. So they have to spend $1 per second to pay off $1 trillion. So, Mr. Greenspan, I don't know if we could print our way out of it, but I guess so, if it's coming from you, because you are the smart guy in the room. Next, Pantera Capital CEO, Bitcoin could peak over 500K in August 2021. And I hope he's talking about in today's money and not inflated money a year from now. Here it is, 50-50 chance Bitcoin goes up and goes up big. This is coming from Dan Moorhead, the CEO and founder of Pantera Capital. Bitcoin has historically bottomed 449 days prior to the halving, climbed leading into it, and then exploded to the upside afterwards. The post-halving rallies have averaged 446 days from the halving to the peak of the bull cycle. In this cycle, the market did in fact trough 514 days before the halving. So we hit complete bottom 514 days before the halving. If history were to repeat itself, Bitcoin would peak in August 2021 at 533K. Obviously, that's a big if. That's that price sounds ridiculous. Just saying that there's more than a 50-50 chance Bitcoin goes up and goes up big. And then he tweeted this about Bitcoin's performance 2020 year to date, and Bitcoin is outperforming every other asset out there. So there you have it. Bitcoin to 500K by August 2021, if everything repeats itself. We saw the last top at the end of 2017, and now we're going to see a new top in 2021, according to him. Next, I'm going to play this video, and I have it sped up to 1.5 times speed. So if you're already listening to me at 1.5 times speed, this is going to sound a little crazy. So here we go. This is Godfrey Blue.
I'm a baby boomer. I was born just after the war. We've had probably we've probably had the longest period of peace and prosperity globally, I would say, from that time. I put a little bit of modest money away so I can hand something down to my family when I pass on, largely because I've never spent more money than I've earned, and I've been prudent, and I've worked moderately hard. Now, it always seems to me as a complete surprise to politicians how countries get in debt. Let me explain, because I don't think you really understand it. It's because politicians consistently spend more money than they raise in taxation, more money than they can possibly raise in taxation, most of which, in point of fact, they actually waste. The reason we're talking about countries which are broke, and they are broke, is because their ridiculous, ineffective, ignorant politicians consistently spend more money than they can raise. And then they borrow, and they borrow, and worse, they then print money because politicians and their central banks have a machine which prints money. You do that as a private citizen, and it's a criminal offence. You would go to prison for doing that, and politicians and their central banks do it all the time. Let me explain to you that these countries are broke. And they're broke because of their own stupid leadership and politicians, and it's immoral to ask ordinary taxpayers of any country to pick up the tab for failed politicians and failed banks. They are defaulted, they're broke, for God's sake, let's all of us admit it.
For dog's sake, let's all of us admit it. Yeah, they are broke. And this is from 2011. So this is what happened from the last economic crash in 2009, and I guess the banks must have been, or certain countries were going to the EU and asking for a little more help than needed, or a little more help that they needed. Okay, yes, he's absolutely correct, because the banks and the governments are in bed with each other, and they just keep printing more and more currency. And if we were to do it, we would go to jail as private citizens. Like, everything he says is 100% correct. I 100% agree with him. And he's not only talking about other countries, he's also talking about the UK, which he represents. So here we'll go again.
Mr. Bloom, yes, well, thank you very much. Mr. Goebbels is brandishing his blue card.
You accept the question? Mr. Goebbels, 30 seconds.
President, I'd like to know if Mr. Bloom knows that Spain is less in debt than the UK, that Ireland was under 60% before the banking crisis, and that Ireland, in going to devastate its banks, saved the money of the British banks.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I wasn't suggesting my politicians were any less stupid than anybody else. It's an absolute disgrace. And it wasn't even debated in our national parliament to actually rescue these bus banks. If you want to invest in bus banks, do so with your own money, not money from my old age pensioners in Yorkshire on 98 quid a week, you scoundrels.
So there you have it. Don't do it on the backs of his constituents that are retired and only get $98 a week, or 98 quid, which is I guess pounds a week. He's saying here at that time. Now, we already have the U.S. debt that's continually growing per second, and now we have the U.S. government saying that they're going to borrow $3 trillion for the second quarter for coronavirus relief. So the numbers, here we go. The Treasury Department said Monday it expects to borrow a record $3 trillion in the second quarter to pay for the coronavirus relief passed by Congress. Treasury said it expects to borrow $677 billion in the third quarter, and $300 trillion this quarter, which is the second quarter we're in currently. Or $300 trillion, I'm sorry, $3 trillion, my bad. In February, Treasury had been assuming a modest paydown of debt. This is relatively normal, as April 15th is the tax deadline for households. But borrowing plans were upended by the rapid spread of COVID across the country. The borrowing estimate for April to June quarter is larger than borrowing for any full fiscal year. The largest borrowing need for any full fiscal year was $1.8 trillion in fiscal year 2009 due to the financial crisis. The Treasury borrowed $1.28 trillion in fiscal year 2019. So 2019 they borrowed $1.28 trillion, and now just for one quarter they're going to borrow $3 trillion. And remember what I said, for $1 trillion to be paid off, the government has to spend $1 a second for 31,000 years, or actually 31,546 years. That's ridiculous. I know we all need help, but it always turns out that the little guy gets screwed, and the big companies are always the ones that benefit from this currency printing. Who is the government borrowing the money from, you're probably asking? The way how it works is the government is borrowing money from the Fed. The Federal Reserve is a private bank, and I keep saying that over and over in all my videos, that the Federal Reserve is a private bank, and that's who the government, the U.S. government, is quote unquote borrowing the money from. So when they say they're borrowing $3 trillion, yes, they're borrowing it from the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve in turn print that money at the U.S. Treasury. So they're all in bed together, just like how Mr. Godfrey Bloom said that the government and central banks are in bed together and they keep screwing people over and they need to stop. And this is from 2011, so 9 years ago. You know, he raised the flag, you know, voiced his opinion, and let it be known that the government and banks were in bed and they need to stop it, right? And we see more of the same continues to this day. The big picture: Congress has approved nearly $3 trillion to aid businesses and workers hurt by the virus and stay-at-home orders, and Treasury has to issue new debt to pay for the spending. The government also lost revenue from the deferral of taxes from April until July, because April 15th got extended to July 15th, the tax deadline date. And the chairman of the Federal Reserve is saying that lawmakers need to pass additional measures. And I'm like wondering, what additional measures is he talking about? What additional measures is this joker talking about? We all already past, you know, I was gonna say up to our eyeballs in debt, but we're already past our head. We're drowning in debt already. So what additional measures is he talking about for the economy to rebound strongly later on this year? How can the economy rebound from all that money printing and all that money borrowing from the Federal Reserve? I don't know. I don't know what the answers are. Actually, I do know what the answer is. The answer is Bitcoin. The answer is Bitcoin, because you can't print more Bitcoin. So the answer is Bitcoin, but we know that governments aren't going to use Bitcoin. But as far as the answers for your everyday citizen to get saved right now, I don't know what the answer is. Yeah, I don't know. Let's have a discussion in the comment section below. As always, thanks for watching. Smash the likes, hit that subscribe button, notification bell, share this video, let it get out there. Let's have a discussion, man, about all this currency printing. And do you think, because of all this currency printing, that Bitcoin will hit that 500K by August 2021? Let's see. Let's start your crypto, and I'm out. Peace.